Picture the wire transfer arriving before the robot does. On August 24th, a division that used to stamp door panels and pack battery cells closed the largest private funding round in China's embodied AI industry, more than 900 million, pricing it above 6.3 billion. The size isn't what's strange here. What's strange is what Tencent and Alibaba actually priced. Not a robot standing on a stage, but something already running, at scale, inside a car factory. That division carries a name investors barely knew a year ago: XPeng Robotics, maker of the XPeng IRON humanoid. Its parent sells electric cars into a market where more than 100 brands fight for the same buyers, on margins thin enough to worry shareholders every quarter. So why would a spin-off with no consumer robot yet on sale become the best-funded private embodied AI company outside a handful of American labs? Reuters reported the round at more than $900 million, led by IDG Capital, with Tencent and Alibaba writing strategic checks alongside it. Tencent builds games and messaging apps. Alibaba builds a shopping and cloud empire. Neither company makes gearboxes. Their money went in anyway, and the stated use of it reads like an industrial roadmap rather than a research grant. Hardware and software inside the robot itself, the physical AI models that let it walk and grasp objects, the data collection needed to keep training those models, the mass production lines to build robots at volume, and the push into markets outside China once they exist. XPeng's chairman and chief executive, He Xiaoping, called it a chance to pioneer a new phase of mass production and commercial deployment for advanced humanoid robots. XPeng has told investors, and repeated on its first quarter earnings call, that XPeng IRON is due to reach mass production by year-end, with initial units placed inside XPeng's own stores and industrial campuses before commercial customers in China and overseas take delivery in 2027. Every humanoid company promises a factory somewhere down the road. Almost none of them already run one today. That distinction is the question worth sitting with as the specifics pile up. That question sits underneath a wider scramble. Humanoid robot startups have multiplied worldwide over the past 2 years, mostly spun out of AI labs with no factory experience and no chip supply of their own. Some raise enormous rounds on a single demo video. Few can say what happens after the prototype works, when a customer wants a large batch delivered on a fixed schedule instead of one robot performing on a stage. XPeng built its car business inside exactly that kind of pressure, competing on price and delivery against more than 100 domestic automakers for a decade. Whether that discipline carries over cleanly to a humanoid product line is the deeper test this funding round is really running. The clue was sitting in plain view months before the funding round closed, at XPeng's own AI Day event last November. The company unveiled a model it calls VLA 2.0 and described it in its own materials as cross-domain driven and applied to AI cars, humanoid robots, and flying cars simultaneously. That is not marketing filler. It's an architecture decision with manufacturing consequences. The same neural model steering a sedan through traffic is meant to steer a pair of robot hands around a warehouse shelf, which means every mile an XPeng car drives becomes training exposure. The robotics division does not have to generate from scratch. The hardware tells the same story. XPeng's robotaxi runs 4 of the company's in-house Turing chips, rated at roughly 3,000 TOPS of combined compute. XPeng IRON runs 3 of the same chips. Same silicon, same supplier, same production line, just a different chassis bolted around it. XPeng has said plainly that sharing the same technology origin as AI cars is what positions IRON to be first to reach large-scale mass production, ahead of makers sourcing custom compute from outside vendors. MIT Technology Review, reporting in February 2025, found the overlap runs deeper than chips. XPeng's IRON robot uses the same path planning and object recognition algorithms already running in its EVs, repointed at factory floors instead of highways. What does that overlap actually buy XPeng? Time, mostly, a head start nobody has to announce. So here's the finding investors were actually pricing on August 24th. Not a humanoid robot as a fresh invention, but a decade of automotive R&D, chip design, and manufacturing discipline, redirected at a second product line that shares most of its parts bin with the first. XPeng is not alone in making that bet. The same technology review reporting found GAC Group's GoMate robot running on EV-derived battery packs for a 6-hour shift, with mass production planned for 2026. BYD paired with Unitree instead of building in-house. NIO split the difference, working with UB Tech while running its own robotics team. McKinsey's research puts a number on why the wider industry is leaning on EV supply chains. China holds 90% of global permanent magnet manufacturing capacity, against 3% each for Japan and the United States, largely because of that same EV ecosystem. Precision bearings follow the same pattern, at 40% of global capacity against a quarter from Japan and a fifth from Germany. Encoder and position sensors sit at 40% too. None of that capacity was built for robots. It was built for millions of electric motors, and a humanoid arm needs many of the same parts a drivetrain does. That is why Tencent and Alibaba wrote checks into a robotics spin-off instead of a robotics startup. The factories, the chip contracts, and the supplier relationships were already running before iron existed. Set the numbers next to each other, and the shape of the argument changes. On August 24th, XPeng's robotics arm priced at $3 billion in a private round. 5 days earlier, Unitree, the Shanghai-listed humanoid maker known for viral backflip videos, priced its IPO near $9 billion and then surged 460% on its first day of trading, closing near a $66 billion valuation. Two Chinese humanoid businesses, one private and one newly public, valued within the same trading week, on opposite sides of a tenfold gap. Widen the frame and the gap gets stranger. Figure AI, the best-funded American humanoid company, was valued at $39 billion in a funding round last September. Unitree's first trading day alone pushed past that figure within 11 months. That is not a research breakthrough moving the number. It's a market deciding, in China's favor, whose factories it trusts to turn a demo into a delivered unit at volume, and pricing that trust in dollars rather than press releases. So which number is capital actually trusting? Here is the one that keeps the enthusiasm honest. Unitree closed 2025 with roughly $252 million in revenue and $89 million in profit, against an August 2026 valuation near $66 billion. XPeng's robotics arm has not sold a single commercial XPeng IRON unit yet either. So the strategic question was never really which robot looks most human on a stage. It's which company already owns the magnets, the bearings, the chip contracts, and the assembly lines a robot needs, because that infrastructure, not the demo reel, is what capital just spent $900 million pricing. That is also why the comparison across the Pacific matters more than the comparison across Chinese rivals. American humanoid makers are, for now, mostly assembling from a supplier ecosystem still being built to order, one contract and one pilot line at a time. XPeng and Unitree are both drawing from a Chinese manufacturing base already running at automotive volume, with parts, tooling, and chip supply that were paid for years before a single humanoid robot needed any of them. Capital is not rewarding the better trick. It is rewarding the shorter distance between a prototype and a loading dock. And on August 24th, it rewarded XPeng specifically for owning that distance already. None of this is confirmed at the scale headlines imply. XPeng's own timeline, repeated on its first quarter earnings call in May, commits to mass production of XPeng IRON beginning by year-end, with commercial deliveries following in 2027. What it does not commit to, on that call or in the funding announcement, is a specific monthly production number. Investors priced a manufacturing advantage that is real on paper. So what happens if the schedule slips? Whether it converts into robots rolling off a line on schedule is still an open commitment, not a delivered result. Reusing a car factory's supply chain solves the parts problem. Can that same discipline transfer to fingers, wrists, and balance? It does not automatically solve the robot problem. Actuators that survive a factory floor, hands that hold delicate objects without crushing them, and safety certification for machines working near people are challenges the EV industry never had to clear. XPeng, GAC, BYD, and NIO are all making the same bet that manufacturing scale will carry over into a different engineering discipline. None of them has proven it yet at commercial volume, in the field. There's also the question of who benefits most if the bet pays off. Tencent and Alibaba did not only buy financial upside, they bought early access to a robotics platform built on manufacturing infrastructure that smaller, less capitalized humanoid startups cannot easily match. Rivals without a platform giant's balance sheet or a decade of automotive tooling to repurpose are competing against a structural head start that clever engineering alone does not close quickly. That imbalance, and not any single robot's spec sheet, may be the more durable story sitting inside this funding round. The same EV market that built XPeng's manufacturing muscle is still squeezing its car business on price, and robotics spending now competes internally with a car division fighting for margin against more than 100 domestic rivals. This funding round does not remove that pressure. It only proves outside investors are willing to bet the factory floor built for one fight can be repointed at another before either fight is won. Go back to that wire transfer landing before the robot does. What closed on August 24th wasn't really a bet on a humanoid robot at all. It was a bet on whether a decade of car factories, chip contracts, and supplier relationships can be repointed at a second product without starting from zero. XPeng IRON is the visible output of that repointing, but the $6.3 billion valuation priced the invisible part underneath it. The factories, the Turing chips, the magnet supply, the years already spent building all three. The race that matters now isn't who builds the most convincing robot. It's who already owns the machinery that builds it. Facts over fear.